Hey all, here are OS Reviews. A while back, we did a video on the first month of Creation Crate, which is a technology subscription box that's a kind of a mystery box, but every single month they will ship you a project to build and develop your programming skills. This can be, aimed at kids. It can also be aimed at any hobbyists wanting to kind of learn programming for the first time. And as the months progress, the projects get harder and harder. This was the first month, which is basically using an Arduino Uno to create a mood lamp. So we're now taking a look at one of the newer projects that they have developed, which is creating an optical theremin still using the Arduino Uno. So in case you aren't familiar, theremins are this really peculiar instrument. It almost sounds like an opera singer. There was a Google Doodle about it a while back, but you can tap on these different parts, and this is kind of what it sounds like. So it definitely sounds a little bit strange, but basically there's this wire, and then depending on the position of how close or far away from this wire your hand is because of the interference, it can generate different pitches and sounds. So that's basically theremin and kind of a demo of how you play it. So this project is going to try and create something like that, but it's an optical theremin. Inside of the box, we have access to all the components in addition to a quick guide that tells us to download the full instructions, and the course, we have to go to their website, creationcrate.com/classroom, just to save on paper, and you can look for the optical theremin and then enter the code to basically unlock it. Now, one thing I will say is I do think that in the future they could offer another version of the subscription boxes, because every single month they give you a new Arduino R3. You can think of this as kind of the brains or the computer of the entire device. It's very similar to a Raspberry Pi, but not quite as high-end in terms of the processing power, so it works well for smaller projects like this, and the programming language used is C++. I do think that because every single project they just give you a new R3, they could maybe just give you one at the beginning, and then afterwards just give you the parts which you need to assemble different projects, and then they could cut down on costs for the subscription each month, for example charging say just $10 if you don't want to use a new board every single time. Now I will say that Creation Crate is currently running a giveaway promotion activity for the holiday season. They are selecting a number of winners to give 6 months a free subscription to their boxes, so basically 6 free projects. So if you are interested in that, be sure to check out more details which may be available soon, and also the description box below. So if we take a look at their website under the Creation Crate classrooms, you can see that, as aforementioned, some of the kind of code and courses are free. Again, the course is just the software component. It doesn't include the actual materials, which you have to get the box to have access to, but you can purchase courses that guide you through how to do something if you have the parts already for about $20 for each course. But if you have, again, the box, you can simply get these courses for free. Now, you can see some of these example courses, like the mood lamp that we've already completed, has basically 29 different chapters or lessons inside for you to complete that. And then right now we are on the optical theremin, the 5th project. Other chapters include more complicated things like a lockbox, an audio visualizer, even a security system, a strength gauge, weather control, alarm clock, RFID reader. Just gets more and more complicated, as you can see here, compared to week 1, which was just that very small lamp. So it gets harder and harder. Now afterwards, again, this is kind of a sneak peek of the various steps inside of this particular course, and very similar to edX or other online courses. Once you kind of unlock it, you have access to a gauge that tells you what percentage you're at. This is the welcome step. It says close your eyes, unleash your inner Mozart, wave your hands in the air to control the sounds of the theremin. It is just relying on this optical sensor to detect how far and close away your hand is, and then artificially create the noise of kind of the theremin. So a quick jump cut, and we have completed the hardware assembly, and should take around 10 to 15 minutes to put together. We can see that there are some spare parts in case something breaks and need to replace it, including extra wires. That, of course, tells us what a potentiometer is. It says it's a knob that provides variable resistance simply by turning the knob. So it's kind of like a dial that we can rotate clockwise and also counterclockwise. So here's a snippet of the full completed code, and when you're done, there's also some extra exercises that you can try and solve to see if you really understand it. Now with the board connected to the computer, we simply need to open the Arduino IDE, and then we tap on the sketch and then upload. That will then proceed to push the code over after compiling, and we can see if there's any comments of errors that are going to be stated down below. Currently, this particular program that we've written takes up 10% of the board's memory. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this board, of course, does not have a built-in battery, so if you want to use this, it needs to be connected to your computer at all times, or you can plug in the other USB port into a power bank, and that will also work. We can control different things using the software, like the pitch, the tempo. We can further tweak and edit to our liking, but afterwards we can crank it up, and we can indeed kind of hear that digital sound that it's producing. Now, the sensor here does work best when we are in a relatively well-lit environment with a light that's casting directly above it, and then from parallel you're able to kind of move your hand higher and lower. It can detect that distance and convert it to a change in the pitch and frequency. But again, if it's not a very well-lit environment, or if the light is kind of off-axis, then sometimes it can be a little bit finicky of detecting where your hand is. But generally speaking, it does work, and the buzzer here is producing the sound. It gets relatively loud, actually, and does, for the most part, kind of sound like what the demo theremin did. Reflecting on this project as a whole, I'd say that the assembly process is not necessarily more complicated in terms of the wiring compared to the first month, but it does test your knowledge more. For example, certain steps are more brusque, and it doesn't go into as much detail of where to put it, and sometimes it just gives you a question mark and it tells you to try and figure out how to wire some of these parts together. It requires you to kind of problem solve a little bit. The entire duration of the project, if you are writing also the code and filling it in, will take you, I'd say, around an hour or two, depending on your proficiency. Could be a little bit shorter, could be a little longer if you're trying to debug if certain variables and certain parts of the code aren't working. But in the end, when the project finally comes together, it is a very rewarding moment and feeling that you've finally cracked it and gotten something from both a hardware and a software perspective. So again, that's more or less it for our kind of second revisited look at Creation Crate. A few months later, we can see how the software side from the website has gotten more polished. The projects themselves have also gradually grown and developed. Cost is still the same, and again, there is a holiday giveaway that if you are interested in, you can find out more details in the links down below. But for now, that's been our video. Still is a very worthwhile, I think, subscription kit to take a closer look at if you are into or want to learn about programming and also hardware, EE. This is a fun investment. It doesn't cost too much, but definitely helps you start to learn and think about problem-solving paradigms. So you can check out more details, but for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been our second look at Creation Crate. This has been the month 5 project, the Optical Theremin.